probation officers. The probation department, the probation officers individually really are the face of the court to the individuals that come to our court system. Effective opportunities with the probation officers, the one-on-one time, the home visits, developing that relationship during that initial orientation period and following on are essential to a successful term of probation, a successful level of trust and confidence with the probation officer. If the probation officers are tasked with many other administrative and clerical type responsibilities because of staff shortfalls, they're not able to spend the time, that one-on-one time, developing the relationship with the probationer. Hours in the day. If you have, we have a juvenile detention center. We also have a resource intervention center. Less money means less hours per day those are open. That means less opportunity for the probationers or the juveniles to receive the services they need. That translates into less effective time on probation, or in the case of a juvenile, more time riding around in an officer's squad car looking for an appropriate person to take custody of that juvenile, less time that the officer is able to be on the street doing what he or she needs to do. So probation interacts with law enforcement on the front end, probation interacts with the defendants after sentencing, and also probation is extremely important in the pre-trial phase in terms of monitoring individuals so they're not locked up in the county jail, so they're able to be on bond but adequately supervised. These are some of the key ways probation impacts our ability to do our job, and if we don't have the probation officers, each of these suffers. We've been fortunate to have some grant access, which has improved our access to the courts. When people think of access to the courts, it's not simply hours of operation and courtroom doors being open. It is the opportunity for those that are appearing in court to get a meaningful interaction with the court system and having their problems addressed in a meaningful way. We have a veterans court, we have a tip court for those with mental health issues, we have a drug court, and our various court systems have been funded in large measure with grants. We've been successful in obtaining those grants, but any personnel decisions that are made cannot always be made with the presumption that those grants will continue to flow. And so our personnel decisions, our planning decisions are always with an eye towards what sources of funding might be available.
I think our most pressing concern is the reduced funding for probation. That's our most pressing concern. We went from, in 2009, we had 41 field probation officers. This year, we have 21. And our population has not decreased dramatically, and that affects the safety of our citizens, and also how we institute our innovative programs that we've tried to institute in Madison County. Madison County, the third, has been really, I think, on the cutting edge of innovation, like a lot of counties in the state of Illinois. We have a veterans court, we have a mental health court, and we have a drug court. Our veterans court, for instance, it has a lot of volunteer components to it, but what we could do, and we did receive a grant too that we're very thankful for, and what we could do with increased funding up to an adequate level even is to expand those programs. For instance, in Veterans Court, expand our mentoring aspect of that program, which would help make it even more successful than it already is. Also, the mental health court is very labor intensive. It requires a lot additional counseling, and we could expand for services. Many of these people in our mental health court don't have driver's licenses, so they can't actually even get to court, they can't get to their counseling services. So that would expand and help those programs grow, which then, of course, would reduce recidivism in our communities, which would help the general public at large. I just heard that in the state of Illinois, it costs $38,000 a year to house one person in the Department of Corrections. So if we, by virtue of these courts, if we can make and help these people become productive members of society, it's a win-win. It's win for the citizens, and it's also a win for the defendants that go through these courts and then can become upstanding citizens, which is great for our community.
I would say the most visible difference And to me, maybe the most vital is in the realm of security. We have a court in our circuit in which there are 4 courtrooms in a row and on the same floor with sometimes very little security, unfortunately. And we have a judge who one day was trying to do misdemeanor bench trials. And misdemeanor trials, minor criminal cases, can be quite volatile. This judge was trying to manage his courtroom. He unfortunately didn't have any court security. Through nobody's fault, there was apparently no funding to provide it at that point, at that time of day, at that place. He kept control over that. Well, the volatility spread to the hallway outside the courtroom. Now, this judge, and God bless him, he stopped his hearing, had to step off the bench, go out of the courtroom, through the door into the hallway to tell the people to knock it off. There wasn't any security out there. Now, how do we justify that? Shouldn't you be able to go to court and at least somehow have some basic guarantee of safety? I understand that the financial circumstances differ in each county. I know why it happens. But as a consequence of it, those litigants and the parties and the witnesses, when they come into these different courthouses around the state, they can get a much different experience. And as I say, I understand how that happens, but I don't understand how we justify it. The judges and the attorneys, they're going to do their job no matter what. They're just going to. The Sheriff's Department personnel, they're going to do their job no matter what. But there are naturally pressures that arise from the lack of money. That's just a fact of reality. And I think we can all live with the reality of there not being endless funds. That's not the problem. But the question I still come back to is why, ultimately, since the courts and all these peripheral systems are everybody's responsibility, how do we justify it being so different from one county to another just because of one county's situation? The people we have in court, they're the same people. They just happen to live in this county or that one.